Namo Phat, good morning. Thanks for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fourth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I vow to cultivate loving speech and deep listening in order to bring joy and happiness to others and to relieve others of their suffering. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I'm determined to speak truthfully with words that inspire self-confidence, joy, and hope. I will not spread news I do not know to be certain, and will not criticize or condemn things of which I am not sure. I will refrain from uttering words that can cause division or discord, or that can cause the family or the community to break. I'm determined to make all efforts to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. This morning we're reading The Fuel for Proliferation by Ajahn Amaro from his book, Catastrophe, Apostrophe. The Buddha spoke of three qualities that feed, are fuel for the process of papancha, conceptual proliferation. And it's also the case that papancha feeds these three qualities. They're like a bad behavior club. These three qualities are craving, conceit, and opinions and views, tanha, mana, and ditthi. There are also qualities that relate to self-view. The first quality, craving, tanha, is related to the possessive self, the self that seems to do the owning of anything. It's related to the attitude described by the Buddha in the discourse of on not self, when analyzing the mind's creations of self-view, etam mama, this is mine. The second quality, conceit, mana, is the I feeling. You can call it the being self or the ego self, the agent self. This refers to the attitude that I do, I feel, I remember, I am, etc. It's related to the attitude described in the same discourse of eso ham asmi, I am this. And the third, opinions, ditthi, is about our narrative, our views about who and what we are. When someone asks us, who are you? It's what we say about ourselves. I'm a monk, a mother, a school teacher. I'm retired, I'm British, French, American, Thai. I'm 64, 17, 95, and so forth. It is related to the attitude in the same discourse of eso me atta. This is my self. These three papancha dhammas work together to feed conceptual proliferation, and conceptual proliferation feeds these three kinds of self-view. It is likely we've all experienced this in our lives and in our practice as we've watched our minds drifting off in different areas of imagination and self-creation over the years. This reminds me of a story I once heard about Ajahn Lee. Ajahn Lee was the teacher of Ajahn Thanissaro's teacher, Ajahn Fuang. Once, when Ajahn Lee had been a monk for about 4 years, he was sitting in his kuti, listening to the rain falling on the roof. This thought came to his mind. How much longer will the rainy season last? Must be about another month. Then he thought, when this rainy season comes to an end, this will be my 5th rains. That means I'm an officially trained monk. So if I finish my apprenticeship, what do I want to do with myself? I could go wandering, or maybe I could go back and visit my home village. Actually, come to think of it, if I finished 5 years, that is the end of my monastic commitment. If I wanted to, I could go back to lay life, and it would be no disgrace at all. I wonder why I've not thought about that before. That's quite an interesting idea, come to think of it. I could go back to my village and see my friend Som. And there's that younger sister of his. She told me that I might be marriageable once I'd been a monk for a few years. I thought she was just teasing me. but maybe she was giving me a message. Soon, Ajahn Lee had created a detailed life story that involved marriage, children, and a job at a match factory. And then he imagined the match factory going up in flames, his livelihood gone, and his wife and children leaving him, his life descending into utter ruin. If only he had stayed a monk. Then he realized he was still a monk, and he was mightily relieved. All that was triggered by the sound of rain on the roof. There's the sense organ, the ear. There's sound. Ear consciousness arises on the basis of the sound hitting the ear. This is sense contact, phassa. Sense contact gives rise to feeling, vedana, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral sensation. That feeling conditions perception, sanya, the mental formation of the actual sense object, the sound of rain. The brain registers that as a particular sound. The nerve impulse goes down the auditory nerve and hits the auditory center in the brain. The brain lights up with that particular sense impression. This triggers conceptual thought, vitakka, which conditions conceptual proliferation, papancha. Conceptual proliferation brings forth the many and various mental creations that arise on the basis of papancha and create the feeling of alienation and oppression, papancha, sanya, sanka. There is the feeling of me in a state of tension with a very distinct world. That could be me wanting something I haven't got, me protecting something I have got, or me being attacked by something I'm afraid of. It could be contention, arguing against something I don't like, having lots of opinions about everything. Those same qualities that lead to conceptual proliferation, craving, conceit, opinions, create more fuel to continue the papancha process. One of the most helpful and skillful ways of working with this is to follow the train of thought back to its origin, from the match factory and the ruined life, back to the raw sound of the rain on the roof. Oh, it just began with hearing. That's all. As you get closer and closer to the root, there's less of a feeling of I and mine. There's simply hearing or seeing or thinking or remembering. There is no strong sense of I, me, mine involved. In this way, the realm of feeling and perception can be seen to be, in their essence, as extremely simple. It is uncomplicated, and the Venerable Shariputra gave a helpful two-word teaching which sums this up, apapancham panacheti. Literally, one is complicating that which is not to be complicated. More simply put, don't complicate the uncomplicated. Our minds love to create complexity, complication, but if we want to find peace and freedom, then the less complicated, the better. One of the attributes of the Buddha was nipapancha, one who is free of complication. Even though he had an amazing intelligence and imagination, his mind as a direct experience was supremely uncomplicated. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be at peace. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me this morning.